Good afternoon, one and all. I request you all to sit straight. Keep your eyes closed. Please don't sleep. Of course, this is a sleep, but I request you all to keep alert. Of course, I'll keep you alert. That is different issue. Sit tight. Keep your back erect. Just observe your breathing. Observe the self. दुःखेष्वनुद्विग्नमनः सुखेषु विगतस्पृहः वीतराग भयक्रोधः स्थितधीर्मुनिरुच्यते स्थितधीः मुनिरुच्यते त्वमादिदेवः पुरुषं पुराणं त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निदानम् त्वमव्ययः शाश्वतधर्मगोप्ता सनातनत्वं पुरुषं मतो मे सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषं मतो मे सनातनत्वं पुरुषं मतो मे तस्मात् शास्त्रं प्रमाणं ते कार्य व्यवस्थितौ ज्ञात्वा शास्त्र विधानोक्तं कर्म कर्तुम् इहार्हसि कर्म कर्तुम् इहार्हसि Once again, observe your breathing. Gently open your eyes. Well, discussions were going on regarding Sangeeta Chikitsa in the morning session. Somebody was asking about that. I thought this is ideal to present in front of everybody. Charaka Samhita speaks about Mantra Chikitsa, Charaka Samhita speaks about Sangeeta Chikitsa. Gita Vaditra Shravanam is evident everywhere in Charaka Samhita. But unfortunately, we are not understanding how we are supposed to incorporate both Mantra Chikitsa as well as Sangeeta Chikitsa. So I thought this is ideal to present practically in front of you all. That's why a small effort has been made to practically demonstrate both Sangeeta Chikitsa as well as Mantra Chikitsa. The three verses which I have selected, all the three verses are from Bhagavad Gita, from different chapters. We divide the chapters of Bhagavad Gita into three sections. My topic is related with Bhagavad Gita. That's why I have selected the verses from Bhagavad Gita only. And some discussions were there yesterday and day before yesterday regarding chanting of shlokas. Then I thought this will be ideal one. What all the techniques we can incorporate whenever we are insisting the students to chant the shloka. So when we put the shlokas in the form of particular tune, then the students they will catch easily. So the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita speaks about self. The next 6 chapters of, as we all know, Bhagavad Gita is having 18 chapters. The next 16 chapters of Bhagavad Gita speaks about the supreme power. The last 6 chapters speaks about the association between self as well as universe. My topic is related with the same, that is association between self as well as universe, which is very essential for all of us. And this is the base even for Sangita Chikitsa as well as Mantra Chikitsa. So first 6 chapters of Gita speaks about Tvam principle. The mid 6th chapter speaks about the principle Tat, whereas the last 6 chapters speaks about Asi. So ultimately Bhagavad Gita speaks about Tattvamasi, Ayurveda speaks about Loka Purusha. So which is very essential for all of us. The base for understanding Manasa Prakriti is the concept of Loka as well as Purusha. So for today's situation, I thought this will be the ideal opener. That's why I have selected the verses from Bhagavad Gita. Manasa Prakriti is based on the concept of 3 components. One is Sattva, second one is Rajas, third one is Tamas. In Carnatic music, which is said to be the root for all forms of music, we have different ragas which are meant to normalize these 3 gunas. Today, I have presented 3 ragas in front of you. The first one is Hamsadvani, the second one is Pantuvarali, the third one is Madhyamavati. So it was the combination. So 3 ragas were presented in front of you. The first raga, Hamsadvani, is said to be a normalizer of Rajoguna. The second raga, Pantuvarali, is said to be the enhancer of Sattvaguna. Whereas the last raga, Madhyamavati, is said to be a promoter of homeostasis of Tamoguna. So the base for Manasa Prakriti, once again, as I already said, are the gunas Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. So I felt it is my duty to keep Sattva, Rajas, Tamas of all in homeostasis, which is very important one. That's why I have selected these 3 ragas for today's presentation. And whenever we are talking about Sangita as well as mantra, the literature plays major role in its effect. We cannot say you chant this, you chant that. There should be specification, and whatever the verse we are selecting, we are going to select, that verse should have specific meaning, which is very important one. Randomly we cannot say. Otherwise what happens? Commonly whenever we go to the temple, the priest, I'm not telling everybody chant like that. The priest used to chant like Om Ganesha Yen Maha, Krishna Yen Maha. Those who are from Karnataka, they realize. So if we chant like this, Ganesha Yen Maha, in Kannada, the meaning will be entirely different. Lord Ganesha is not at all a great personality. That is the meaning. We are not supposed to chant like that, isn't it? So the verse, whatever we are selecting for the management of different ailments, the verses are having weightage, the verses are having value, the verses are having efficacy. We cannot select whatever we wish. So the first verse, whatever I have selected, that verse speaks about Sthitadhihi, Sthita Prajna, which is very important for us, for everything. So Raja has to be regulated, for which Sthitatva is very essential. When we come to the second component, that is for Sattva, whatever that is going to enhance, so such type of verse has to be selected. So the verse which I have selected, that is from Vishwarupa Sandarshana Yoga, the chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which speaks about the highest level of energy in the nature, which is very important one. The last one, it speaks about karma, action. For normalizing tamas, karma is required. Already tamas itself, we know it is not having action. We relate tama with inertia, inaction. So for normalizing tama, karma is related. So the last verse, it speaks about karma. So this is how we are supposed to choose verses for management of different ailments, different situations. This is how we are supposed to choose different ragas for managing different situations. So keeping audience in mind, keeping circumstance in mind, keeping the need of this particular workshop, keeping the importance of the topic, whatever I have selected. So I felt Bhagavad Gita will be the more ideal one, and the unique three ragas of Carnatic music are very ideal for today's presentation. That's why I started my talk with this one. In teaching methodology, we call this technique as induction. If we don't do induction, usually we will not be able to inspire the students. So always we should try the technique. Commonly what we do, we enter the class and directly we start the subject. We should give a space to the students to adjust with the environment, which is very important one, that we can achieve whenever we do some different induction techniques that we have to do. Certainly we will succeed in communicating whatever we know in the class. So this technique we developed, we tried to understand when Madam was talking about teaching methodology. During that phase, we realized the importance of this induction, and we come to know how we can modify induction and how we can modify our teaching methodology. From that time, we started presenting everything in a different way. So this is, we call it as induction. So from this, we will move on to the topic whichever have been given for me. The topic is Manasa Prakriti. All of you are knowing about this subject. Please note this point. I'm one among you. I'm not going to teach anything for anybody because all of you know more than me about the subject. I'm just putting few ideas how we can communicate the concepts of different subjects to the students so that we can inspire the students, that's all. So at the end of both the sessions, don't expect much from me. I'm not going to give anything, as I already said. I came here to learn many things from you all. So as such, we don't have the technical term like Manasa Prakriti word in Charaka Samhita. Of course, we have in some other references, that is different. But it is having much more importance in our practice, which has been forgotten. So let me try to present the importance of this with few illustrations. So today, I'm going to talk about this subject with two objectives. One, it is Nidarshana, that is the first objective, how it has been narrated in the text. That we will just try to see. The second one is Anusamadhi. It is very important one. Whenever we are going to teach any subject, we start with the theory. That makes a student, the subject very boring. It is better we have to reverse the phenomena whenever we are teaching any subject. That's why I'm starting with Anusamadhi. Anusamadhi speaks about the outcome, speaks about the application of the concept of Manasa Prakriti. So today I'm starting the discussion, I'm starting the description with Anusamadhi. One study has been carried out, that is effect of selected treatment modalities in the management of general anxiety disorders. It has been related to Anavasthita Chittatva, in which it was a research work, in which patients were divided into 4 groups. In one group, patients were administered with placebo control. In second group, patients were administered with medicine Mamsya, which consists of Jatamamsi, Ashwagandha as well as Parasika Yavani in the proportion of 1:4:8. That is for 1.5 months, 40 ml twice a day. And in third group, it was subjected for Sattva-Vajaya Chikitsa, in which yogic practices are incorporated. The base for that was the description given in Charaka Samhita, that is ahitebhyo arthebhyo mano nigraha, the word mano nigraha. In the context of Patanjala Yoga Sutra, it has been mentioned, somebody was talking about that, chitta vritti nirodha, both are having relativity. So keeping that point in mind, yogic practices like asana, pranayama, and dhyana were incorporated. And in fourth group, it was combined therapy, in which the aushadha in the form of yuktiyopashaya chikitsa and also the sattva-vajaya chikitsa were incorporated. This was the study design. It was carried out for 1.5 months. Surprisingly, when we look into the efficacy of therapy, clinical efficacy was very significant in Sattva-Vajaya group. You can notice that one. So the result was 96.33% in Sattva-Vajaya. Unfortunately, it was 85% in combined. Commonly, our prediction will be there should be higher efficacy in combined group, but here we got a different result. So can we draw the conclusion as Sattva-Vajaya Chikitsa patients who have undergone Sattva-Vajaya Chikitsa got better result? That's why Sattva-Vajaya Chikitsa is better than combined therapy. Do you think is it going to contribute anything for Ayurveda research? Certainly no. At this level, new point has been observed in the result. We will go back, which is very important one. Once again, observations were made among the patient. In Sattva-Vajaya group, patients having Rajasadhika Sattva were more, which made us to get a variant result. This made us to think about the application of Manasa Prakriti in clinical practice. So this way of presentation, we call it as, this is first one technique I'm telling, we call it as data-based teaching learning method. So if we provide some data regarding the subject, whatever we are talking about, data might be in any form, then automatically what happens? Student realize the importance. We will go for the next stage. A patient, male patient, aged 40 years, patient was suffering from Angamarta, Aruchi, Sthaulya, to bit increased weight, significant lakshanas of Agnimandya, hoarseness of voice, Swarabheda was very prominent, and mood swing was there in the patient. Patient was complaining like, I could not tolerate pain. It is unbearable pain. It was not psychological as such. It was somatic. Psychological cause manifested somatically. Patient was unbearable to bearable for the pain. He was not able to tolerate the pain. These were the features the patient was having. As the features were non-specific or the features were not targeting towards any diagnosis, so patient has undergone investigation. Can you see that? Can you see that? How much? What is 157? TSH 157. So that was the condition. So when detailed history was taken, patient was having Sattvadhika Rajasa Prakriti. When cause was elicited, patient exposed much to the stress that led for Agni Vikriti. So because of Agni Vikriti, so the reference we have in Charaka Samhita, Vimanasthana, 2nd chapter. So that led for Amotpatti. So that ama, which has been mentioned in once again Grahani Chikitsa Adhyaya, that get associated with Dhatugata ama. So the condition was Dhatugata ama. So the condition was hypothyroidism. So which is having the pathogenesis like this. Patient was having Sattvadhika Rajasa Prakriti. When the causes were elicited, it has been noticed that patient exposed much to the stress that led to this pathogenesis. And patient was very confident about Ayurveda treatment. Patient approached and patient said, I will take Ayurveda treatment. You can see the report, it is not any this one. So all the doctors, they advised to go for hormone replacement therapy, everything. But patient, he said, no, I will take Ayurveda, I will follow Ayurveda, whatever you say that I will follow. Then treatment has been planned like this because he was having Sattvadhika Prakriti, quite natural. We can advise Daivapasya Chikitsa easily, which was the need. We can advise Sattvavajaya Chikitsa, which is required once again because of the cause. Of course, Yuktiyapasya is required. Pathogenesis has been taken inside the body. So this is how the treatment has been planned. In Daivapasya Chikitsa, Mantra Chikitsa has been incorporated. In Yuktiyapasya, Deepana, Pachana, Anulomana, Prasadana were incorporated. Whereas in Sattvavajaya, Yogasana, Pranayama, Dhyana were given. And that was followed continuously along with the principles given in Swastha Chatushka, that is appropriate following the principles of Dinacharya, Rutucharya, everything. Of course, a Sadvrutta, which should not be neglected. So after 4 months, can you notice the report? Can you see the report? Do you want to see the patient? Can you guess? Yes, it is Dr. Srivatsa. Why I am telling this? This type of presentation, we call it as live demonstration. Whenever we are talking about any subject, when we relate anything with our life, when we explain with our life, automatically communicating and conveying any concept will be easy for everybody. Always what we do, we go to the class, we talk about Swastharutta, we talk about Sadvrutta, and once we go out of the class, we won't follow. Then how we can insist the students to follow it? But it's not possible. So we should be the live example. We should be the live demonstration always. Then communicating, conveying any concept will be very appropriate one. So today I'm leaving. I'm saying very proudly that whatever I am, that's only because of Charaka Samhita. I'm leaving because of Charaka Samhita. I'm standing in front of you because of Charaka Samhita. Whatever I am, that is because of Charaka Samhita. So Charaka Samhita guided me at every level for everything. It might be the level of communication, it might be the level of knowledge, whatever it might be. So it is the guide for me, because of which I can lead my life today. So this is one more way of understanding or communicating the subject. We will move on to the third step of learning any subject. How this Manasa Prakriti can be used in a different components of Ayurveda, Triskanda Ayurveda, Trisutra Ayurveda, Hetu, Linga as well as Aushadha. Let me present 3 cases related with this. A male subject aged 80 years, he was complaining of only giddiness and bhrama and impaired balance. He was unable to balance properly. Only these 2 features were there, and these features were persistent for 1 week, and the patient was not responding for any treatment, and he was non-alcoholic, non-smoking, and he was having very perfect lifestyle, and no neurological deficit were observed in the patient. Surprisingly, when the patient has undergone CT scan, it has been noticed that patient was having cerebellar infarct. The magnitude of cerebellar infarct was so much, even the surgeon, they were surprised to see that why this patient is not having the symptoms to that extent. And later, when it has been observed, the Abhyantara Karanas are under control because of Sattvadhika, Rajas and Tamas, Prakriti, whatever the patient was having. A female subject of 60 years, she was diagnosed as hypothyroidism. She was asymptomatic and she was having a lot of faith in Ayurveda, and she, after getting the report only, she came and she was asymptomatic, and she was not demanding for any medicine, but her family members, they were worrying about her condition and they were demanding for medication. Later the medicine was given and she was under control. But the surprising point here is, as she was having Rajasadhika Sattva Prakriti, the symptoms were not aggravated and she was asymptomatic throughout, and that made her to lead life very systematically. A female subject of 57 years, and she was having multiple joint pain since 2 years. Even she has undergone so many treatments, she was unable to get the treatment. When she came for the treatment to the Ayurveda hospital, she came with a lot of faith because of her Tamasadhika Sattva Prakriti, which made her to get relieved from the condition. So these are all the three conditions wherein the significant role of Manasa Prakriti in all the three Hetu Skandha, Linga Skandha, as well as Chikitsa Skandha are evident. So this method of narration, we call it as problem-based teaching learning. We come to know about the three important ways of communicating the information. The first one, we call it as data-based method of communicating the information. The second one, we call it as life experience-based TL method. The third one, we call it as problem-based TL method. When we have multiple ways of communicating the information, then it will be easy for the students to communicate and to understand the subject and to proceed further. So with this, let me enter the subject. As I already said, I don't want to tell the theoretical part as such because all of us know. But still, there are few points which we are supposed to remember. We have the classification specifically in Ashtanga Sangraha, Sharirasthana, and how to assess it, that is the challenge for us. Even though we have different methods of assessment, the ideal one will be observational method and second one will be interrogational method. Whenever the question of Prakriti comes into picture, it is better to have these two methods. Of course, tactile method also helps for assessment, but these two, one is observational as well as interrogational methods, they contribute much for the assessment of Manasa Prakriti. We get expanded description in Charaka Samhita, but for the practicality, we get guidelines in Sushruta Samhita as well as in Ashtanga Hridaya, of course Ashtanga Sangraha, wherein we get different traits for Sattva, Rajas as well as Tamas, through which we can evaluate the Prakriti of the individual. Question arises, how to objectivize it? For example, Kritajnata is there, Titiksha is there, Krodha is there. How to assess it? How to objectivize it? That is the challenge for us. We are supposed to follow 4 important stages before proceeding further. It is applicable for other aspects also. It might be like assessment of dosha karma. It might be like assessment of dosha vriddhikshaya lakshana. It might be the assessment of different vyadhi lakshanas, whatever it might be. So everywhere, this will be more ideal. The first step is assessing the lakshanas based on the text. Unfortunately, we never try to do this. We directly translate the word, or we directly get the English translation for the word, and we put the question in the same way, which will be of no use. So the first step, witness the text, then witness the commentaries, then witness the dictionaries through which we get the specific meaning for each technical term. This has to be done. This is the first step. So after doing this, we should move on to the second step, wherein we should try to elicit presence and absence of that particular trait. Yes or no. Andrashamsyam is there, Lobha is there or not. So this is the second step which we are supposed to know. When we come to know the assessment of presence as well as absence, we should move on to the third step, in which we should grade the traits based on various points. Usually, we go for 4-point scale, wherein 0 will be complete absence, 3 will be complete presence. In between, oftenly, occasionally we put. But we should define what is occasionally, what is oftenly. Whether it is time-based or it is severity-based. So we should have clarity regarding this, which is very important one. After doing this, we should know how to frame the statement. Whether it should be framed in the form of question or it should be framed in the form of a statement. This is very challenging, not only for the Lakshanas of Manasa Prakriti, even for the Lakshanas of Vyadhi everywhere. So we should know how to frame the statements. Many times we come across with some statements having positivity, we come across with some statements having negativity. Commonly the features or traits of Rajasa Prakriti, they fall under Rajasa and Tamasa, they fall under negativity. The traits of Sattva, they fall under positivity. So here comes once again a challenge for us, because if you ask somebody, do you get anger always? Patient will be, immediately he will respond, no, why I should become anger? I don't become anger at all. Isn't it quite natural? Whenever we ask anybody about the negativity, nobody will accept. So we should know how to frame the statement, or we should know how to frame the question. Usually whenever we go for the assessment of Manasa Prakriti, assessment of different components of Manas, we go for both styles. One, questionnaire method. Second one, statement method. Statement should be in such a way that it should communicate that particular trait appropriately, and it should be subject friendly. So whatever we are communicating, whatever we want to expect from the patient, so our statement should be designed to get the desired answer. That's very important. That's why framing the statement is very challenging one. I will give all the details, don't worry, how the statement has been framed. Everything will be given, even I will give the article also. It has been given already to Megha. So you will get that one. But why I'm sharing this one is because it's very important for your future teaching and your future practice. That's why I'm telling how it has been done. After doing this, we should check whether it is friendly with the patient, whether it is acceptable for the subject or not. For that, we do different statistical methods like validity as well as reliability, based on which the particular module or particular inventory will be subjected for application. This is how this inventory has been designed. This is how the concept of Manasa Prakriti has been objectivized, has been prepared for practical application. But when we go through the description of these are the lakshanas, that's what I told already. So after getting the classical descriptions, we should convert every term into the form of communicable statement. Then it has to be converted into question. It has to be simplified. This is the technical information. People other than Ayurveda, they will not be able to understand this. So this is the technical information. So after this, it has to be simplified in such a form that a common person can understand what a doctor is intended to convey. So after doing this one, we are supposed to know few interesting points of Charaka Samhita, because we have highly diversified description of Sattva in Charaka Samhita under 16 heads, starting from Brahmakaya or Brahma Sattva. In Charaka Samhita it is Sattva, in Sushruta Samhita it is Kaya. Okay, so it starts from Brahma, it ends at last one, Vanaspatya. It starts from Brahma, it ends at Vanaspatya. So these 16 traits, so they are presenting some interesting points in understanding the individual. There, one unique term has been used. What is the base for this classification? In Charaka Samhita only we have, that is Anukam. The term Anukam has been used in that particular concept, which is very important one. So this diversified information has been given based on some similar subjects observed in the nature. So for understanding the concept of Manasa Prakriti, the best teacher is nature. So based on Loka, the description of Manasa Prakriti has been given. So the first idea behind framing this concept is analogy. Based on some similar features in the individual and the same features in the nature, the particular classification of Sattva has been made in Charaka Samhita. When we see the Lakshanas, as I already said, many people they used to say, we don't have gradation of symptoms in Ayurveda, we don't have gradation system in Ayurveda. Always we get this opinion whenever we enter the field of research. But when we see the traits explained here, in Brahma Sattva, you can see the Charaka Samhita. All of you have brought Charaka Samhita. It's very nice to see that. So when you see Charaka Samhita, for Brahma Sattva, it has been mentioned as Lobham Apetam. Whereas for Arsha Sattva, it has been mentioned as Lobham Upashantam. So there is a difference between the terminologies used in these two contexts. Lobham Apetam, the person who is completely devoid of Lobha is Lobham Apetam. So there is no presence of Lobha at all. That is Lobham Apetam. Whereas in Arsha Sattva, same Lobha has been used, but for that the suffix is Lobham Upashantam. In certain circumstances, person get afflicted with Lobha, but it is not persistent. It is occasional expression of Lobha. So can't we say it as chronological description of traits which are explained in Manasa Prakriti? So we say we don't have graded symptoms, we say we don't have graded methodology in Ayurveda, but the terms which are used in Charaka Samhita only, I am not talking about Chakrapani. Chakrapani is a different issue. And many times we glorify Chakrapani more than Charaka Samhita. That's very unfortunate. I feel nowadays I started realizing it. I feel we should read Charaka Samhita first, completely, word by word, letter by letter. That gives us different idea. And the commentaries like Chakrapani or Gangadhara should supplement the views of Charaka Samhita. The views of Chakrapani as well as I'm not opposing. Who am I to oppose such people? The views of Chakrapani as well as Gangadhara should not dominate Charaka Samhita. These are all the descriptions given in Charaka Samhita only. Lobham apetam, lobham upashantam. So the description has been given based on the concept of chronology. Yes. Shall we see the Lakshanas in reverse direction? It is Vanaspatya, then Matsya, then Pashava, then Sarpa. Correct? So it goes on. It ends with Brahma. Am I right? It starts with Vanaspatya. It ends, if we move in reversal, it ends with Brahma. Can you identify some different point there? We call it as phylogenesis. Don't you think it matches with the principles of Darwin? I'm not telling that it is equal to Darwin's theory. I'm just putting one idea for you to understand the concept. Developmental psychology is a new branch which has been emerged these days. It was not there. Especially developmental psychology, clinical psychology are coming into picture these days. It was not existing earlier. So with the principles of developmental psychology, when we look into the concept of sattva, which has been explained in Charaka Samhita, there we can see the level of mental development starting from Vanaspatya to Brahma. One more interesting point is evident in the context of Manasa Prakriti, that is association between popular terminologies we already discussed, that's why I'm not talking about it. The features explained under each kaya are representing the conglomeration of conation, cognition, and affection. Traits representing affection are there, traits representing conation are there, traits representing cognition are there. So in total, the features explained under different sattva are helpful to understand individual as a whole. Certainly, the concept of a sattva or kaya is having or is proposing the concept of ontology. So this is the difference. You all know I'm not going to explain all these points. Yes, when we talk about Manasa Prakriti as such, we get different criteria for understanding this in Bhagavad Gita, especially in 16th chapter, that is Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga, 17th chapter, that is Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga, and the last 18th chapter, that is Moksha Sannyasa Yoga. In these three chapters of Bhagavad Gita, we get very interesting points for better understanding Manasa Prakriti. I'm not going to explain all those things because all of you know that. I'm just giving the reference through which we can understand the concepts in better way. So these are all the points explained under different sattvas. So all of you know these points. So I don't take much of time to explain all these points. Yes. Dr. Alexis Carrel guides us a lot to understand the concept of Manasa Prakriti. While talking about Manas or Manasa Prakriti, if we won't take the name of this person, I think it becomes injustice. All of you might be knowing about this person. He has written a book known as Man the Unknown. It's a very famous book, and he is a Nobel laureate, a Western person who got Nobel Prize for his researches done based on Indian philosophy. He very beautifully defines where Manas is located. That's very interesting point. And he very beautifully explains what Manas is. He very beautifully narrates how Manas functions. He very beautifully explains how yoga works. That's very miracle. He did extensive studies. He did extensive research in the field of Manas, keeping Eastern philosophies in mind, and he has provided few guidelines for understanding the Manas. And he says always mind or psyche to be understood with four components. First one is intellectual, second one is moral, third one is aesthetic, fourth one is religious. When we look into different traits of Kaya or Sattva, all the traits, they fall under these four categories. Intellectual traits are there in Brahmakaya, aesthetic traits are there in Brahmakaya, moral traits are there in Brahmakaya, of course, religious traits are there in Brahmakaya. So, whenever we are supposed to assess Manasa Prakriti, so these four components should be kept in mind, which is very important one. So, these are the points you get everywhere. I'm not going to explain that one. So, how the proforma or inventory has been designed, that I already shared, and the detailed description also I'm going to provide for you people. You can have that. So, this is the way how the scoring has been done, which I already shared with you. So, as while numbering, this technique is a very important one. We have so many traits. In Sattva, we have 19, in Raja, we have 17, in Tama, we have 16. Okay. Total, how much it becomes? 50? 2. Okay. We are not supposed to keep Sattva one side, Raja one side, Tama one side, as I already said. We have to pool them, which is very important one. And when we pool them, it is challenging for us to reorganize the matter. We need some identification point for that, isn't it? So that has to be done like this, which has been done here. So for Tama, you can have T. For Sattva, you can have S. For Raja, you can have R. So for which we have to give the number. And that numbering also should be done randomly, like first 19, S1, S2, S3, not like that. So it has to be done randomly. That's why it is started with Tamas. Tamas got 1, Rajas got 3, Sattva got 2. So like that, randomly it has to be done, and randomly that module has to be prepared, which is very important. Even though we do this, we have many challenges to assess Sattva. It is not so easy. Nobody will be so open. Even a husband and wife, they are not so open, then how we can expect somebody else to be very open with us, isn't it? So it's very challenging. But there are 3 levels through which we can approximate, to some extent we can understand Sattva. One, if the individual is suffering from minor mental disorders, then with the help of self-assessment only we can do that. That is by the self-involvement of the individual, that is one level. And second, by taking the opinions of his workplace, that is from friends. And third, by taking the opinion of family members. So by taking these 3 opinions, to some extent, we can approximate the traits. But practically what happens, many times it is challenging. We won't get all the 3. Ultimately, we have to depend on self-evaluation method. But for authentication, it is better to have 3 opinions through which the Manasa Prakriti can be evaluated to some extent. I know many of you have many points to discuss. So that's why I kept concept minimum. I kept time for discussion more, because whenever we take class, we should restrict ourselves only for half an hour, not more than that. So the remaining half an hour should be divided for different aspects like induction, evaluation, and some other activity through which we can communicate the subject very appropriately. Now it's time for you.
Sir, there are occasions for an individual, like myself. My habits and behaviors are very different at home than it is outside. And it is not that I am pretending outside. I usually don't get angry. There are no fights at all. But home, it might be just the opposite. So, how do I really assess what my Prakriti exactly is? The one I am presenting outside or the one I am presenting at home?
That's why gradation has been done in the scale. If it is with purpose, if it is with genuine cause, then we cannot call it as the person is having anger and all. So whenever we are taking class in the class for the students, students might be very mischievous in the class. Then even though we are not getting anger from inside, but we have to show that whatever they are doing, that's wrong. So situational has to be excluded. So the scale has been designed in such a way that excluding those situations, what basically you are, that has to be specified, that has to be mentioned, based on which the Prakriti has to be assessed. That's what we are supposed to do. So whatever reactions you are showing, those reactions should not affect you internally, which is very important one. If it is not disturbing your inner self, then it cannot be considered as grade 4. It is 0. This is how the gradation has to be done, and the questions are designed in the same way, and the questions should be designed in the same way, which is very important one. Just like dosha gati, we have doshas are mentioned in variation as per kala. We know that. Can we consider it as vikriti? No, it is also like that. It's very simple. Many times we complicate the concepts of Ayurveda.
Sir, whenever we are developing questionnaire, so we find difficult in such context that certain criteria will be common for two different conditions. Like Shura is there for Sarpa Prakriti. And also it is there for Varna. So how to define that terminology when we prepare, or whether we have to keep it separate question, or gradation wise separate question.
Shuratva in Rajas is different. Shuratva
In Sattva is different.
that we have to define, that has been done.
Huh.
The modification has been done. As I already told you, there are so many points for which we should know the specification. In the context of Rajas, whatever Shuratva that has been mentioned, it is the nature of aggressiveness. That's where what Dr. Savita was asking about. Okay, so the Shuratva which has been mentioned in Sattva, that is pointing toward the decision what you are going to take whenever you are faced to some different situations. So question should be designed in such a way only. And second thing, Shuratva is not the only component to assess Sattva or Rajas. We have so many other components. They support, but the question should be designed keeping this reaction in mind.
If there is a repeated Lakshana, we have a different question each time. Okay.
Whenever we are preparing once again questionnaire, like each criteria, we need to have initially before going for running Cron Alpha, we need to have multiple questions for each criteria, no sir. Sometimes when we run and for the purpose of increasing value, so we may lose the questions which may be more suitable for that criteria to overcome those technical problems.
So it's very simple. That's what I mentioned earlier. At first level, you go for presence and absence. We should know how to define it. So, for example, you have taken mana. Mana, if we don't know what manam is, and if we frame the question or if we frame the statement, we get confused. We end up with a lot of controversies. First, we should know what mana is as per the text. Then, we should develop the skill of defining the presence and absence of mana. That has to be done in set of people. So then we come to know what are the other possibilities of evaluation, what are the other challenges in assessment of mana. In third level, we should go for this type of gradation. This is also primitive, what I'm telling. This is also primitive level. It is not, I'm not going to tell that it is a superior best one. Certainly no. This is also primitive level. Okay. So once you come to know how to objectivize it, then you get some other ideas regarding that. The quantification increases. The number of points increases. And you are supposed to take the opinion of different people. That's what we call it as validation. So for this, we did face validation. Further level of validation, we are putting once again. This is how we are supposed to proceed further. But commonly what we do whenever we are taking any subject for the research, directly we will jump to the fifth or fourth stage. That's why we get confused. Yesterday I was talking with my PG scholars. Without knowing Angamarda, what is Angamarda? If we choose the drugs mentioned in Angamarda Prashamanagana for any trial or any study, it becomes nonsense. So we should know what is Angamarda as per the text. Being the people of Samhita Siddhanta, many times we forget to refer the text. And we are eager to put our own interpretations as per my knowledge. That is a great mistake commonly what all of us commit. Okay, so first we should try to know what is Angamarda, then we can proceed further. Same thing is applicable here also. So first we should understand what that particular terminology is. Then we should proceed further in the second step, wherein we should try to check the presence and absence. Then the same activity should be done in large scale. Then we should take different opinions. Then we should proceed further for higher level. So this has to be done even for the assessment of dosha karma also. Then it will be easy for us to understand dosha vikriti. Unfortunately, while we teach kriya, of course we people only teach kriya. Ashtanga Hridaya also we teach. Our Savita was teaching kriya for many years. So when we teach kriya, we teach in a very theoretical manner, even though it's a very lively subject. Of course, anatomy is anatmia, not physiology. We explain anatomy with the dead body, no? That's why it is anatmia. No, it is not my statement, it is C.P. Shukla sir's statement.
Sir, regarding collection of information through questionnaire statements, it's always challenging, as you. And a lot of time people used to hesitate to give the all information. And all our manas prakritis are qualitative information. And always it is very challenging again to convert qualitative information to quantitative. So how we make some gradation from 0 to 3, and that gradation should be standard one, sir. So how it will be, because my understanding level and your understanding level definitely will be different. So how it will be possible, sir, to make one standardize your gradation?
It should start from any one step, no? Somewhere we have to start. I may be wrong. I'm not telling that I'm superior, I'm great. Whatever I have done, that is right. I'm not telling. I have done one effort. This effort has been done. It might be wrong. Yes. I opened few ideas. I opened few techniques. You take everything. Everything is there. It has been given for Dr. Megha. Even this same detailed article, when writing the article also, we have provided all the information without hiding anything, how it has been done, each and every point we have written, and how statistical, many times what happens, many researchers, they incorporate some statistical methods which nobody can follow, so that they can keep the study secret. But here we used simple to show the simplicity of statistics. Biostatistics is a very simple, very beautiful subject, highly applicable for Ayurveda research, but unfortunately we don't know how to use it, that's all. So here we simply made use of only percentage, nothing more than that. I'm not telling that we are right. So this effort has been done. To some extent, we could assess the patients. So you can proceed further based on it, or based on this, you might have got some other ideas. You can put further, you can take it further. Something is better than nothing. Action is better than inaction. Action is better than inertia. Yes, whenever we, yeah. But we have to convert some qualitative informations into quantitative because it's very important and it's very essential. Because Ayurveda also speaks about quantification. Even though they say that doshas are qualitative, Taratama bhavas are explained. That means we have to quantify. We have the tools to quantify, but we are not realizing the tools given in the text for quantification. That's what I mentioned. Lobham apetam, lobham upashantam. That is the reason why I mentioned that point. That's why I have not mentioned any textual descriptions. I have just mentioned some interesting points based on which you can proceed further. I could have mentioned only the difference between Sharirika Prakriti and Manasa Prakriti, the involvement of Panchabhautika Prakriti, and so on, whatever the textual descriptions we have. But I have just mentioned only the practical points which are very essential for all of us, not only for me.
My question is that the disease you had, that is hypothyroidism, you were talking about. Is completely a sharid disease. In spite of that, how and why the application of Sattva-Abhajaya Chikitsa came across your mind? Would you please explain?
When that report was noticed, everybody told me that you have to undergo HRT. There is no other go because your TSH level is 157. All the doctors, they said, as all of us, we have friends. So once they noticed this condition and they said, better, at least you do one thing, you take contemporary medicines till it comes to the normal, then you follow your Ayurveda. I had one doubt in mind. I had this question in mind. Even though we teach everything, even though everywhere we go, we say that we are superior, we are great, we are doing that, we are doing this, everything. Why can't we incorporate the same thing for us? And I realized the Samprapti first, what happened in me that I knew. The first mindset I made is, let go. Doing Sattva-Abhajaya is very challenging. As it was for me, it was okay. It is not so easy. When you are suffering from the condition, I was unable to sit in the department. I was unable to take the class. When I used to go to the class, my voice was so horrible. After half an hour, I used to get so much of throat pain. I was unable to take class completely for 1 hour. But I made the mindset in such a way that no, I have to take class because this is only the solution. Of course, luckily I knew music. Basically, I'm a musician, so that I can practice that. I felt very bad when I was unable to sing. But I started singing. I started all the, it was going on, but I was unable. I continued with everything. Yoga helped me a lot. Whatever I am today, that is because of Ayurveda as well as yoga. Principles of yoga, of course, they are mentioned in Charaka Samhita in different upakramas that we will talk on some other days, not today. So the mindset is the main, because of which I could proceed further. I cannot say whether I can treat the patient with the same level of TSH because it depends on their mindset. So if they have that mindset of coming out of the condition, or if we can create the mindset in such a way that they can come out of the condition, certainly we can manage. It is possible. But we have that mindset, which is very important one, and we should know how to evaluate, and we should know what will be suitable for us, which is very important one.
Sir, among Deha Prakriti and Manasa Prakriti, of course we know there is no direct link, as in Vata Prakriti could be Satvika, Rajasika, Tamasika. But is there any study or anything done wherein Vata, to analyze a relation as to Vata Prakritis are usually Rajasika, considering, no, it is not possible.
When you see the relation, it starts in between dosha as well as triguna, we have Panchamahabhutas. So you just observe the relation. It is not Vata is equal to Raja. It becomes different. That is basic component. Six important components which modify Prakriti, that we are not talking very appropriately, that is Jati Prasakta, Kula Prasakta, Deshanupatini, Kalonupatini, Vayonupatini, Pratyatmaniyata. At one context we have Prasakta, and at another context we have Anupatini. These two terms are very important, very interesting terms used by Charaka Samhita. So they are the modifying factors. Because of that, we come across with various modifications. Culturally, because of Jati Prasakta, because of Kula Prasakta, if the individual is trained in that way, automatically what happens? It gets modified. So we cannot say that, and it is as per the text, we cannot say that always Vata is equal to Rajas, always Pitta is equal to Sattva, always Kapha is equal to Tama. It is not like that, because Panchabhautik configuration in between which decides dosha on this side.
In Vimanasthana, when they incorporated Sattva Pariksha as a part of Dashavidha, then why they didn't included this aspect of assessment, sir? And one more. So they have specified, but it is not as the criteria as specified here. That there only they have specified that how oneself can console oneself and how we can determine the sattva. And one at last, while they concluding also, they are telling sattvam upacharaha. So the importance it is given, but why they didn't stressed much over that one?
It has been highlighted in 3 levels in Vimanasthana. We cannot say that they have not given importance. They have given much more importance to the concept at 3 levels. One in the context of Guru Vyadhita as well as Vyadhita Rupiya. In the context of Vyadhita Rupiya, what has to be considered, that has been mentioned. In the second context, we get in the same Vimanasthana, Atura Bala Pariksha as well as Dosha Bala Pramana, Atura Bala Pramana, which has been mentioned. In that context, we get 2 methods of examination. One is Sattvasara, that speaks about the excellency of Sattva Guna. We have one context. And we have one more, Sattva Pariksha, which speaks about assessment once again based on Bala. So there we talk about Sattva as a whole, keeping Bala in center. Whereas in the context of Guru Vyadhita as well as Laghu Vyadhita, that is depending on the reactivity of the individual. Whereas in the context of Sattvasara, based on the qualities. We have 3 methods of examination depending on the Adhikarana. So that Sthanadhikarana is Mana. For that, this is required. So based on that, it has been mentioned. So there it has been segregated depending on the need. It is not the assessment. So when the question of assessment as a whole comes, that is Adhikarana in Sharirasthana. That's why in Sharirasthana, we get assessment as a whole, whereas in Vimanasthana, we get assessment as a segregation.
In Chikitsa then, where we have to refer for Sattva Vajaya Chikitsa exactly, and how to draw a line. Here we have to advise Sattva Vajaya separately and Daiva Vapashraya Chikitsa, because both it will have its own influence.
You are the ideal Sattva Vajaya Chikitsaka. That's what I'm telling. We have to. It's very easy. Many times that is difficult. This is difficult. We think in that way. Everything should start, what sir was talking about, everything should start with first step. When I started Sangeeta Chikitsa, when I started with Mantra Chikitsa, I came up with so many challenges. And whenever we practice Mantra Chikitsa, that too, we come across with so many religious challenges. It is not so easy that we can incorporate or we can advise Mantra Chikitsa for everybody. We have so many limitations. And we are not supposed to use Mantra Chikitsa randomly at every level. Because it's an auspicious methodology which has to be done very systematically. You should start with the same. As I have mentioned, we have the classical description, ahitebhyo arthebhyo mano nigraha. So for that, what are the tools we can incorporate, that we are supposed to incorporate one by one, one by one, one by one. So there I come across with different ragas which help to attain this avoidance of ahitartha as well as incorporation of hitartha. Many of you might ask me, sir, we don't know Sangeeta. Knowing Sangeeta is not so much difficult, learning is difficult. Requires a lot of involvement. Knowing is not that much difficult one. Have the passion, involve in that one, you get so many routes. And every information is there in Charaka Samhita. Have faith in Charaka Samhita. Live with Charaka Samhita, you get solution. Simple example I'll give. You don't know anything, no problem. I don't know anything, no problem. In Jvara Chikitsa, what has been mentioned? Sahasranama has been mentioned. I don't know how many of you know this. Extensive research work done with Vishnu Sahasranama. Vishnu Sahasranama has been categorized into 7-8 types. 8 divisions are there in Vishnu Sahasranama. Each division is meant for the normalcy of particular component of the body. That's how Vishnu Sahasranama has been designed. So we have the description there. Make use of that. Very simple. Start from there. So we never try. Whatever it is there, whatever there. See, expand is skill. You start with this, whatever there in the text. Then you go on working on that. You get many avenue. So without doing that also, if we say that is not possible, this is not possible, then we cannot do anything. In the same way, when we go through upakramas in the context of Vata, Pitta, Kapha, we get a very beautiful description in Charaka, which we won't get anywhere. 2 days back, when I was taking class, bedside class for PG students, I was asking, can we go for same type of abhyanga for all the patients? They were just thinking what to tell. Then I asked, so if you want to increase the muscle bulk, which type of abhyanga you are supposed to do? If you want to increase the tonicity, which method of abhyanga you are going to incorporate? If you want to increase the local circulation, what method of abhyanga will be more ideal? If you want to promote the locomotion, which technique of abhyanga will be very ideal? Or if you want to maintain the normalcy of skin, which type of abhyanga should be followed? Whether we can go for same style of abhyanga, whatever we come across with everywhere, is it correct one? I was asking. Students, they were how to understand this. Then I said, abhyanga itself is such a vast topic, which we made it as highly impractical and highly ineffective. We are not understanding this. The principles of abhyanga are explained in the context of Vata Upakrama. Avapidana is there, Unmardana is there, Utsadana, there are so many methods. But we are not trying to understand these technical terms properly. We are not defining what is meant by Avapidana, what is meant by Unmardana, what is meant by Utsadana. They are technical terms. We simply say powder massage. No, actually it is not like so. It is something different, which we are supposed to know. So when we know this, then abhyanga becomes more scientific. Abhyanga itself is so vast. But unfortunately, and so much of importance to whenever we come across with any diseases of locomotor system, whenever localized condition is there, then we should go for abhyanga, not for systemic disorders. Then what was the necessity to explain abhyanga in the context of Rajekshma? What was the need to talk about abhyanga in the context of Shotha? What was the necessity to talk about abhyanga in the context of Udara? Sthanik abhyanga is there. Lepa is there. Bahiparimarjana Chikitsa has been explored to the highest extent. So if abhyanga and all, whatever the Bahiparimarjana Chikitsa we are having, those Bahiparimarjana Chikitsas are not having systemic effect, then what was the necessity for our ancestors to explain that? Unfortunately, we are not realizing these points explained in the text. That's what I feel, including me. I'm talking about myself. That is the best method of criticism. We should criticize the self.
Sir, in Charak फर्स्ट चैप्टर इट इज डिस्क्राइब दैट मानस रोगों के लिए जो चिकित्सा सूत्र डिस्क्राइब किया गया है ज्ञान विज्ञान धैर्य स्मृति समाधि भी। तो एक तो इसका क्लिनिकल एस्पेक्ट क्या है, ज्ञान विज्ञान मतलब पेशेंट पे हम इसको कैसे अप्लाई कर सकते हैं। दूसरा क्वेश्चन मेरा ये है कि सत्वावजय चिकित्सा के लिए संहिताओं में कुछ भी ऐसा स्पेसिफिक मेथड डिस्क्राइब नहीं किया गया है। चिकित्सा स्थान में बताया है कि हिक्का में आश्वासन हम कर विस्मारण, वहां पे सिर्फ एक शब्द बोला है, या फिर शोकज अतिसार में भी उन्होंने जस्ट कोई डाइवर्ट करना है माइंड को या आश्वासन देना है। तो इस तरह से मतलब ऐसा कोई स्पेसिफिक कोई ऐसा वर्क हुआ है कि ये स्पेसिफिक मेथडोलॉजी हम एक पेशेंट पे अप्लाई कर सकते हैं सत्वावजय चिकित्सा के लिए।
That is the skill what a physician is supposed to develop. One reference we have how to incorporate these things in Vimanasthana 4th chapter, wherein different faculties, different components related with manas and buddhi are explained. Dhritim alaulyena, smritim smaranena. So one thing they help for assessment or evaluation. Second thing, indirectly they help for motivation. That is one thing. We cannot say that Sattvavajaya Chikitsa has not been explained in the text, or we cannot say that practicality of Sattvavajaya Chikitsa has not been mentioned everywhere. It is the skill of the physician which he or she should develop, which is evident in Vimanasthana 4th chapter, Aturasyantaratmanam, which has been mentioned. So that skill we have to develop. It's our skill. We have the description, and we have the methods, and the biggest tragedy is we are not understanding the concept of a sadvritta. Sadvritta has become something which is highly impractical. That is the reason why Sattvavajaya Chikitsa has become extinct. Principles of Sattvavajaya Chikitsa are highly evident in the context of Indriyopakramaniya, which none of us we are trying to understand. There we get the guidelines regarding life, there we get guidelines regarding profession, there we get guidelines regarding social attitude, there we get guidelines regarding every aspect of life. How to deal with human being, that's also mentioned. But unfortunately we are not realizing what Sadvritta is. Of course, we have the description of Achara Rasayana. Once again, Achara Rasayana has become a story for us. It's only for writing in the examination, nothing more than that. It's our duty to bring all these aspects to the limelight, but we are not doing this. We have to do that. Many 10 years back when I was teaching, it was easy for me to communicate the students because their level of emotion and my level of emotion, they were matching. Now, I am 20 years ahead from the students who are coming for teaching. Whatever you say with emotion, they won't accept it at all. You just observe. You are also teachers. You know that. So if you say anything with emotion, no, you read it. It is very helpful for your future. It is very essential for your future. I am very much concerned for your future. You please read this. That makes no difference for them. Values are becoming extinct. So we are doing something wrong because of which the society has been deviated. Many times we think that we have to give medicine over. No. Ayurveda speaks about life as a whole. We are supposed to treat in that angle, which is very important one. We should modify everything. That's why I have given my own example. So that's why I get modified at every level, which made me to stand in front of you all. Otherwise, I would have undergone cardiac arrest and all, because that's the biggest complication of the condition. They told me the same thing. You may undergo cardiac arrest at any time because your level is so high. That's why following all these aspects is very important. We cannot dissociate everything. Whenever we are talking about management, Dhatu Samya has to be attained through all modes. So food is waiting for you. We will continue discussion after food.